If you have been on a dating app in the last 5 years, you already know the vibe. It is an endless sea of men holding up large fish. So last week, in a moment of absolute delusional optimism, I decided to pivot my strategy. I deleted the apps. I looked at my morning commute, a 35-minute journey filled with hundreds of employed, fully dressed men, and I thought to myself, Jane, your target demographic is trapped in a metal tube with you every single day. I decided to run a 5-day sociological experiment. Monday to Friday, I would put away my phone, remove my noise-canceling headphones, and actively try to flirt with strangers on the way to the office. I wanted to see if the universe would reward me for putting myself out there. Spoiler alert, the universe was incredibly annoyed that I was disrupting the morning flow. Now, before we continue, we need to discuss commuter categories. You have the finance men in quarter zips, the women who somehow look perfect before sunrise, the gym people carrying giant water bottles like military equipment, the loud callers who believe the entire train is emotionally invested in their meeting schedule, and then there are the people who stare silently out the window. That one's me. Now, I would love to tell you I approached this experiment confidently, but that would be dishonest. I approached it like a woman asking her neighbor for their Wi-Fi password, because flirting on a commute feels intrusive somehow. Everyone has agreed to the social contract of, we do not bother each other, we do not make prolonged eye contact, we do not force interaction before breakfast, and honestly, I respect that. The modern commute is built entirely around avoidance. Headphones in, eyes down, spirit elsewhere. Most people are physically on the train but psychologically already answering emails. So the second you attempt friendliness, the energy shifts immediately. I smiled at one man by accident, and he looked genuinely alarmed, not offended. Alarmed, like I had disrupted the ecosystem, and honestly, I understood. But after a few days, I noticed something interesting. Flirting already exists on public transport. It's just quieter than people think. Tiny interactions. Someone moving their bags so you can sit down. A shared look when the train announcement makes no sense. Somebody holding the door. Small moments of acknowledgement, and weirdly, those moments feel more personal now because everyone spends so much time trying not to interact. Romance in adulthood is less. You are the love of my life and more. I appreciate that you made this miserable commute slightly less irritating. Honestly, that feels more realistic. Now, on day 3 of this experiment, I encountered my commute crush. Every regular commuter has one, and there's always somebody you see repeatedly and slowly build an entirely fictional personality around. You know nothing about them except their headphones, their coat, and the fact they once helped someone with a suitcase, which is somehow enough for your brain to go, yes, stable, dependable, emotionally mature. This man had extremely competent energy, very calm, very organized, looked like he returned emails promptly, terrifyingly attractive. And because I clearly enjoy unnecessary stress, I decided this would be the person I flirted with. Now, when I say flirted, please understand the standards here were incredibly low. I made eye contact and smiled. That was the entire event. And the amount of adrenaline this produced was completely unreasonable. Why does basic human interaction feel like a hostage negotiation now? Why are we all like this? But anyway, he smiled back. That was it. Tiny moment, completely normal. And somehow my brain immediately escalated it into a romantic subplot. Because adulthood is embarrassing. Someone acknowledges your existence and suddenly you're imagining joint grocery shopping. Calm down, Jane. The next day I sat near him intentionally, which already felt emotionally reckless, because failed flirting on a commute is uniquely horrifying. At a bar, rejection is temporary. On public transport, you may now have to see this person every weekday for the next 6 months. The stakes are astronomical. And then something even worse happened. He started a conversation. Tiny comment, completely normal. The train was delayed, and he said, every single week. That was it. A harmless sentence. And I reacted like a woman being handed a love letter. I answered, thank you. Thank you? For what exactly? The transport disruption, his literacy? I managed to recover and laugh normally, but psychologically, I never fully came back from it. Because flirting in theory is elegant, but flirting in reality is just two nervous people trying not to sound strange. And here's the thing nobody really talks about anymore. Most people are scared to flirt now. Men are scared of being creepy. Women are trying to stay safe. Everyone's overthinking. Everyone's exhausted. And most people have spent years being told not to bother strangers. So even tiny moments of connection feel unusually intense now, which honestly made me a little sad because I don't think people necessarily want less connection. I think people just don't know the rules anymore, especially in cities. Everyone's protecting their little emotional bubble, and sometimes that's necessary. Public transport can already feel overwhelming, especially for women, so I'm not saying everybody should suddenly become flirtatious commuters. Please don't. But I do think we've lost some softness socially. Tiny conversations, a tiny friendliness, tiny moments where strangers acknowledge each other as human beings instead of obstacles with backpacks. Now, did my commute crush and I fall in love? Obviously not. This is not a Richard Curtis film. But over the next couple of weeks, we had occasional conversations, little smiles, small interactions, and nothing dramatic. And honestly, that was enough. Because the point wasn't really romance, and the point was remembering that life feels better when you're slightly open to other people. Which sounds obvious, but modern adulthood makes that surprisingly easy to forget. Commute, work, notifications, repeat. Everybody's rushing, everybody's mentally elsewhere, so even small moments of warmth start to feel meaningful. Now, did I attempt more direct flirting at one point? Unfortunately, yes. And unfortunately, I regretted it instantly. We both reached for the same overhead rail and I said, "Oh, wow, teamwork." Silence. Just immediate silence. And I knew immediately. My soul left my body and went home early. Because flirting depends entirely on timing and chemistry, and sometimes what sounds charming in your head arrives in real life completely misshapen. I spent the next 4 stops pretending to read an advert about broadband packages because recovery was impossible. So let the record show, not every attempt succeeded. Some were actively humbling, which honestly builds character, probably. But here's my final takeaway. Flirting on your morning commute only works when it feels natural. Mutual eye contact, mutual energy, mutual openness. Not pressure, not persistence, not bothering someone who clearly wants to be left alone with their headphones and emotional support coffee. Read the room, actually read the entire train carriage. And if somebody isn't engaging, leave them alone. No bitterness, no weirdness. People are tired. People are stressed. People are just trying to get to work without participating in someone else's romantic subplot. Respect that. But if there is a genuine moment, a tiny connection, a little conversation, honestly, I think that's lovely. Human beings are supposed to interact sometimes. Shocking concept, I know. And maybe the real lesson here isn't flirt with strangers on trains. Please don't quote me on that. And maybe it's just look up occasionally. Be a little more open. Allow tiny human moments to exist without immediately retreating into your phone, because adulthood can become incredibly mechanical if you let it. And sometimes a small interaction with another person reminds you that you're still alive underneath the emails and calendar notifications, which is nice. Emotionally inconvenient, but nice. So if you enjoyed this video, hit the subscribe button. I'm Jane next door. Next time we are going back to safe, emotionally detached topics like how to aggressively budget for a vacation while pretending to work. Until then, stay sharp. And remember, if somebody attractive smiles at you on public transport, stay calm. You do not need to immediately imagine your future together. You are an adult. Act accordingly. Bye.